Ready?
Now I got some lots.
That one dead?
Are you all set or no? It's not working?
Guess I don't need the top.
Well, you might.
Okay.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the planning board meeting for Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. I'd like to begin with roll call of board members. My name is Bill O'Neill. I'm the chairman.
Roger Sample.
Tom Devine.
Christine O'Brien.
Nick Bonapane?
Okay, and I don't see Tom here, so we don't have any,
Right, no,
no alternates.
No.
Okay, so we will move on to approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
So I'd like to suggest, one change to the agenda under number 2, new business, A. There's discussion with town administrator about town becoming member of the LRPC. I'd like to move that, before the public hearings,
Okay.
if possible. And, the only addition after the agenda was posted is under old business, it's A, and that's the memo dated May 14th, 2025, from myself regarding Steve Bocelli, who's agent for New State Realty Management, and the need for site plan at map 34, lot 39, which is 404 Main Street in the rear. And that's it.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, from there, I'd like to move on to discussion with town administrator about town becoming member of LRPC. Our town admin, Ryan Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, my name is Ryan Heath. I'm the town administrator here in Alton. I asked to meet with you folks today at the request of the Board of Selectmen recently, just to explain how we got here, and I apologize. This is the Director of Lakes Region Planning Commission.
Shanna Saunders.
Meet you all.
Before I got too far, sorry about that. So just to give you a little bit of background on where we are here is the town years ago was a member of Lakes Region Planning Commission. And at that point in time, it was the planning board's sort of purview at that point to raise the money in the budget, pay our dues, whether we were a member or not, really kind of fell under the land use portion of town business, for lack of a better term. Where we are today, the decision was made years ago, for one reason or another, I wasn't part of that discussion, to withdraw from Lakes Region Planning Commission. But what has transpired recently is the town of Alton's household hazardous waste program took a serious blow at the end of last year. We had the sudden death of our 20-plus year coordinator for household hazardous waste. We had a joint program going with Wolfboro. The coordinator was the one that bridged the gap between Alton and Wolfboro. And with her passing, it left the program sort of abandoned at that point. So in long discussions between the town of Wolfboro and their manager and myself, the town has chosen to vacate the agreement with Wolfboro mutually, no bad blood there. Their idea is they wanted to contract services through Lakes Region Planning Commission, which in turn, they're members of Lakes Region Planning Commission. In order for us to do it, the town needed to become members because Lakes Region Planning Commission has a well-established Lakes Region household hazardous waste collection throughout the entire Lakes region. And the Board of Selectmen made the decision along with the joint board for household hazardous waste to become a member. We've already paid a prorated membership for the rest of this year, joined their Lakes Region household hazardous waste collection, and we plan to continue in that direction. the reason we're here tonight is because they also offer a lot of services that come with our membership, and a lot of those services are geared towards land use resources. So the board thought it was a good idea that maybe I had a quick meeting with the planning board to let you know that sort of the situation, how we became members again, what we're doing from the household hazardous waste side of things, but also a value to the resources that the board might want to take advantage of moving forward through Lakes Region Planning Commission. And that's why I asked the director to come tonight so that we could, have this quick conversation. She could explain a few of the resources and answer any questions the board might have.
So to start off with, we're basically all set because you've joined what you needed to do to take care of the household waste thing.
Yes.
All right, so that's all squared away. So this is all extra.
This comes with the membership. There's no extra fee. So,
Now you're talking to
okay.
me.
Yeah. So there's no money involved, and that's what it is these are services that come with our membership that we have now already have and obtained as part of the household hazardous waste. And actually, the membership and the joining of the Lakes Region Collection actually was less money than what we were budgeting every year for household hazardous waste to begin with, running our own program. Their program branches all the services together from Lakes Region, so it costs less money for us to be a part of. So there actually was a cost savings all the way around. But the services that we're going to talk about tonight are no additional cost. So go
Great,
ahead.
yep, yeah, so I'll jump in with that. So a few more details on the household hazardous waste and the solid waste programs that we have in association with that. So with the household hazardous waste, there's numerous collections around the entire lake all summer and into the fall. We do focus on Thursdays and Saturdays, but now because Alton is a member, any of your community members can go to any of those drop-offs all throughout the summer in any of those towns. That whole list is on our website under solid waste, so if you wanted to take a look. First one coming up that is June 21st, and that is with the town of Plymouth and Wolfboro. So those two communities are on Saturday, June 21st, and then it goes throughout the summer from there. Also, as part of kind of the solid waste branch of our organization, we provide technical assistance to transfer stations. So we're happy to come to your transfer station and talk to them about kind of their business model, their transportation flow through equipment. We give advice and updates on equipment and grants available through DES for equipment upgrades. And in fact, we have also helped out, say, like the town of Guilford, who now does styrofoam recycling with the purchase of the styrofoam recycling baler. And Guilford is now a regional collection for styrofoam. So items like that. We are starting a composting program as well. So if Alton is interested in participating, we are looking for towns to participate as far as large-scale composting bins at the transfer station for municipal drop-off. And we're also looking for towns to participate in more of a grassroots composting program where we'll be handing out single-family size composting units and teaching composting throughout a number of towns. The whole purpose is kind of to, as we know, landfill space is dwindling, and so we're trying to get everything we can out of the waste stream. We got programs coming up for e-recycling, battery recycling, and boat plastic recycling as well, kind of in the arm of solid waste. We do a lot of other programs. I think of interest for the planning board is our brownfields program. So we get EPA brownfields assessment money. We are in the midst of a 3-year grant. We anticipate applying this coming fall for another 3-year grant. LRPC has received brownfields funding, I want to say, for close to probably 2 decades for brownfields assessment. So this is contaminated sites or sites that may have the perception of being contaminated. We certainly have some sites. In fact, we're working with a former lumber yard now in Tamworth that we anticipated there to be contamination on the site, but as we've gone through the phase 1 assessment, which is kind of the desk and file portion of the assessment where we look through past uses and past building locations, once we determine kind of where contamination will be, phase 2 means shovel in the ground, test pits, monitoring wells. We've gone through all of that and found that this site is relatively clean. So we do that on sites. The one catch is they have to be sites that will be used for public good in the long run. So the city or the town needs to be involved in the brownfield site. It can be associated with things like housing or public spaces or nonprofit reuse, but it can't be working hand in hand with a private developer. It has to have a kind of a public arm to the future use of the property. But for free to the town, we can come in to that property, do that phase 1 and that phase 2, which are both required pieces for cleanup funding. And we can then help the town, and the cleanup has to be through the town. We can help the town for free, again, apply for cleanup funding. So we've done this with gas stations, dry cleaners, old mill buildings and industrial sites to clean them up, and then the town can then put them back up for sale and sell them for reuse and get them back on the tax roll. So that's a program that we have available right now. We also just received funding for low-impact design work in 9 communities. Not to be named yet, but we put out the number 9 communities around the lake for stormwater ordinance design. So again, for free to the community, we would come in, take a look at your stormwater ordinance, and kind of do an audit and let you know, hey, here's kind of where stormwater is going in the future. Here's what's happening at the UNH Stormwater Center, or kind of, on EPA's front for stormwater, and this is where we think that stormwater could be improved in your community and your ordinances. The long-term plan for that funding is actually to install a few stormwater pilot sites in towns around the lake that have interpretive signage, so that when you're working with a site developer and you say, we want you to do low impact design stormwater, we want you to do infiltration, we want you to do a rain garden, and the developer says, I don't know what you mean, I don't know what that looks like, you can say, go up to that site in Wolfboro, that pilot site, and take a look at this one that's capturing, all of the runoff off the grocery store parking lot. That's what we would like you to put in your plan, something like that. So, and then the hope then is to be able to have future funding to then come in and rewrite as many zoning ordinances and site plan regulations as we can to incorporate that language that we identified and then put into place in these pilot programs. So again, we've received grant funding for that. That's a service that if Alton is interested in, certainly reach out to us, and we provide that for free as well. The last thing is that, well, I shouldn't say the last thing. We also work with infrastructure planning, so water and sewer infrastructure planning. And what we could do is there are a number of infrastructure grants available through DES for expansions of both water and sewer infrastructure, and we would help with the planning portion of that. And so come into a community, kind of help identify the need, kind of the existing conditions, and then help you through the grant process to apply for one of those infrastructure grants. The intent kind of in the state, I'm sure you've all heard of the housing crisis, and so the intent is really that infrastructure expansion should be for housing, kind of growth of housing, or increase of density, or allowing more land to become more buildable. But we can certainly, work with you, on other projects as well. And then we do things like HOP grants, the Housing Opportunity Grants. I think most of that funding at the moment is no longer available. However, as we all know, the state budget is still working its way through the Senate Budget Committee. They did cut out the $5 million that was in it for more housing, zoning, and master plan work. If that $5 million or a portion of it was put back in, if you were to reach out to your senators and let them know that that is an important piece of the budget that they'll be looking at tomorrow or next week, then we could certainly, if those grants were available, we would certainly help out the town with information, updates on your master plan or site plan and subdivision regs. We do have a couple programs that I'm going to talk about that are in addition to the free programs that we offer. However, because LRPC is basically subsidized by the municipal appropriations, we do tend to be kind of the low bid for a lot of these services. So, I can certainly put together a quote for some of these services for you, and you can compare us to any of the other folks that you may be interested. But we do circuit riding, so we do provide staff support for planning offices that may not have staff or perhaps need staff training or board training. I know you guys have a fantastic planner. I've actually worked with your planner a little bit because I circuit ride in Wolfboro. And so as your abutter, we've worked on a couple of questions on parcels that cross the property, the county line. But, so we do circuit riding and training. We also do master plan work. So if you're looking for, say, your transportation portion of your master plan, or your natural resources portion of your master plan, we can do that for a competitive bid. And then we work with UNH in their SAIDS program, and I apologize, that's an acronym. I can never remember what the heck it stands for, but I can explain to you that there are two arms of that under their T-squared program, UNH's T-squared program. The first is for roadway and pavement assessment, and it is a very kind of broad brush roadway and pavement assessment. It is not an engineer level assessment that we do, but it's kind of a first level assessment of all your roads and all of the pavement condition quality, so that you can then take it to that next level and look at engineering services to help prioritize for your capital improvements plan or your budget as far as maintenance of roads. And we provide that same service for culverts and drainage systems. So we can go in and ID and basically characterize your culverts and your drainage pipes, whether they're concrete or high-density polyethylene or whatever they are, their size, their width, their location. We map those and provide you with GIS maps for both of those programs. Those are for fee, though, as well, depending on your road miles in both cases. So I think that's a fairly broad brush overview. Oh, I'm sorry, one last thing, sorry, is transportation planning. We do a lot of transportation planning in our office as well. So all of the 10-year plan projects come through the regional planning process. All of the transportation alternatives grants, so this is for sidewalks and trails, go through the regional planning office. All the CMAQ grants, congestion mitigation, air quality, which is intersection improvements, turning lanes, the suicide lane in the middle so that traffic isn't stopped and idling, all that goes to the regional planning office. I can tell you that New Hampshire DOT is very excited you guys are back as members. They very well may be reaching out to you to talk about kind of some of the possibilities for DOT funding for road projects in Alton. So for many of these programs, we ask that Alton assign a commission or a committee member. So we have a transportation advisory committee. We'd love Alton to send a member to that meets once a month-ish to go over what upcoming opportunities are for funding or project assistance. We do have a brownfields committee, and then we have the full commission, which is we ask for a regular member and an alternate. They also meet about monthly and have kind of overview meetings of projects. We just met yesterday, the full commission, and we did a full tutorial on the state's Housing Champions program, which hopefully you guys have talked about. You've probably read about Laconia putting together an application for that. I'll just mention the deadline is May 31st. So if you guys are interested, definitely something to pull together quickly. It is something where if you're not a Housing Champion member, some of the infrastructure grants and some of the transportation grants they're going to start docking points. So it is something to definitely take a look at moving forward. But I think that's it, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I just kind of threw a fire hose of information at you, so happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I received an email today regarding the state budget. And the email said something about the fact that the state is not going to fund
Right.
the 9 RPCs throughout the state. So how will that affect the free services that you just talked about?
So I don't know that it would be shocking
Potentially.
to all of you to, if I was to tell you that the state provides us with $11,000 a year. So no, the loss of that $11,000 will not affect us. It is quite a low amount. I can tell you that many of the RPCs, and we're not immune to that either. We use that $11,000 often as match money. So a lot of times when we apply to the EPA for the brownfields funding, if we apply to the USDA for the household hazardous waste or solid waste funding, or to HUD for some of the housing assistance, we do need to show match funding. So the municipal appropriations often are put toward that, but we also put that $11,000 toward that match. I do think that really the most disappointing part about the state cutting that out of their budget for the regional planning commissions is that we exist because state law tells us that we have to exist and provide a certain number of services. We do developments of regional impact for planning boards, and we do mapping for planning boards. And the fact that they're really just cutting us out kind of the state budget is kind of, knocking us at the knees. So that's a little unfortunate, but the loss of 11,000 will not affect any of the services I just spoke to.
Yeah, okay.
I think when we joined before, it was for your mapping.
I'm sorry, it was what?
It was for your mapping, for the use of your mapping.
Yep.
Most of the stuff here you've gone through sounds to me like a city. Alton's rural. I mean, all the drainage gets taken care of right on the site. And I don't even see we have a need for, I'd say 90% of that.
I say one good.
You think?
I'm sorry. I was just gonna mention.
I mean,
one good-
yeah.
Yeah,
I just don't see where most of it hesitating.
So I think the transportation funding is definitely an important piece, right? So to get projects on that 10-year plan, to get grants so that there's the transportation alternative
You
grant.
can't get a driveway cut.
I know the process is difficult, right? There's a long wait.
No, you can't get a driveway cut in Alton. I didn't say difficult. I said you can't get one.
Okay. Well, so this is different, right? So this is funding for road upgrades, intersection upgrades, sidewalk extensions. And so all of that you will now be eligible for. I can imagine that Alton has some brownfields, and I'm happy to sit down and talk with folks about that program.
So one of the things field, which is a perfect example here, is the 60 acres on Hidden Springs Road. The town took that over, bought it because it's contaminated. Now we're gonna
For
try.
the Catholic Church.
Yeah, now we're gonna try, because that has leaching from the solid waste center, from the landfill. So we have a bunch of test wells in there, but the town is gonna try to repurpose that and put a DPW building out there, but also use the other side of the brook as large field recreation. But if we're gonna do some sort of recreation, the Brownsfield project would be perfect for a phase 1, phase 2, because especially if we're gonna use recreational fields and put kids out there, that contamination level has to be addressed and at least studied
Absolutely.
and documented.
Yeah, and you guys would
But
be
that's just an
eligible for
example.
It did
cleanup
say
funding
90%.
too. Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys would be eligible for cleanup funding as well, so, so we could certainly work with you for a cleanup grant, as well. And those are up to $1 million of cleanup costs, at least it has been. We'll see what happens in Washington, but, and then, the solid waste technical assistance, so, you have an arm, I'm assuming, of your Public Works that deals with trash pickup. It's public here, not private, right? And so we're happy to come in and talk with you guys about, kind of what kind of equipment you use, if there's any upgrades to any of that equipment, kind of business model and how traffic flow may happen at transfer stations and how you can separate a little bit better. And we work with Northeast Resource Recovery as far as markets for resale and recycling and things like that. So, again, we're happy to help come in and help you out with those services as well.
Great. Any other questions? Everyone all set? Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for
coming.
your time.
Appreciate it. Okay. Now we will move on to Case number P2506, TF Moran Incorporated, agent for Treasure Coast SPE LLC owner. This is for a design and review. Proposal to construct a 39-unit manufactured home park to include one site area for single-family dwelling.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Alan Roscoe from TF Moran. I'm a senior project manager, and I sit in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Here representing the owner and applicant, Mr. Donald Sorrentino, seated to my left. And also along with us tonight is our counsel, attorney Ariana McQuarrie from Alfano Law. So yes, we have a proposal here for subdivision review, design review level for our project. We have just gone back to the Zoning Board of Appeals to clear up a design issue. And so we have our special exception and our variance for the proposed project. Got a vote back in August of 2024, and that was affirmed as of May 1st this year. So we've come forward. We had already submitted this project for design review before the reviews were halted. So we're coming back before you now with a slightly revised proposal, and I'm not sure if the hearing notice is correct, but we're actually now down to a total of 38 lots for home sites. The original application was for 39, but we are now down to a total of 38. So 37 of those home sites are going to be manufactured home park compliant, and there'll be one more conventional single-family home site reserved for Mr. Sorrentino, who wishes to continue as a resident owner-operator of the park. So to avoid any confusion, I just want to make sure we have the correct numbers in our application. So with that being said, the owner and applicant wishes to develop this property of 87 acres with frontage on Route 140, which is the Gilmanton Road or the Gilman Highway, located between house numbers 725 and 775 on basically the southern side of the road. Property consists of 87 acres, and we wish to develop, as I said, 37 manufactured homes. They will all meet local requirements with frontage, side setback, rear setback, front setback from the right-of-ways. And there'll be 10,000 square feet, and that will accommodate at least the home that is planned, which is a 52-foot by 26-foot manufactured homes. These are not mobile homes. They will not be on trailers or wheels. These will be appearing as if they're stick-built on site on a concrete slab, and they will meet all of the local requirements that we've already gone through with the zoning board. Serving this development will be a roadway network. This drawing might be tough to read from the back, but we have selected our new driveway entrance off of 140. And if we can get this to work.
It shows on the wall, it doesn't show.
I saw it, I don't know why, but anyway, it's difficult to read, but roughly the center of the frontage is chosen as our proposed intersection. It affords the most safe location for our new roadway to exit off of 140, so we maximize sight distance in both directions. And
Hang on. Rule of public.
And then off of that network, we have a total of about 2,700 linear feet of roads. The dead end portion is 1,725 feet long, and that is less than the maximum length of 2,500 feet allowed here in Alton. We have a main spur road, which runs basically to the southeast, and then 3 short spur roads off of that main road, which will provide access and the frontage for the manufactured homes. We're proposing to construct the roadway with a 24-foot wide paved width, which is more than the minimum allowed in town, but we wanted to make sure that we were emphasizing safe access for emergency vehicles should they become necessary to supply service to the project. Couple of facts and figures. There are no mapped FEMA 100-year floodplains on the site. Similarly, where the local Alton Special Flood Hazard Zone follows the FEMA mapping, we are not involved with any local floodplain ordinances in effect. The project site is also not located with any aquifer protection zones or in any shoreland overlay districts. As I mentioned, we have received rulings from the Zoning Board of Adjustment for a special exception and a variance to allow the single-family use on the site, which is seen as positive because he will be, on site should there be any issues or problems. He'll be there to handle. All of the house lots or home sites will have paved driveway with parking for up to 2 vehicles. For those locations where there's a roadside swale, there'll be a culvert placed beneath the roadway and the driveway to convey any runoff from the streets towards our site stormwater management devices, which we will go over in a few minutes. As required by local codes, the development lots and the remaining land will remain in single ownership. So this is not your traditional subdivision because we're really not subdividing anything. The property will be laid out so that we provide compliance with the setbacks and the density, in terms of zoning. But again, the property will remain under common ownership. We plan to extend electricity to the project from our west, and we are working with a service provider to design that system. We'll be providing on-site propane tanks for fuel. We'll be adding wells or one or more wells to provide on-site public water supply for the residents. And we will be providing fire protection through the use of either a dry hydrant or a cistern system. We got some comments recently as today from the fire department to that effect. And sanitary disposal will be provided through several common septic systems, which we'll be designing. Will link together on a cost-effective basis, several house lots together, and then treat with septic tanks, and then go to a common septic field that's proximal to our home sites. There is no known land in current use, quote unquote, on the development site. There are no other known holders of conservation, preservation, or agricultural preservation restrictions. And as an amenity, we're providing a community center and some athletic fields. It will be a place for gathering for residents. We're providing walking trails and picnic areas so that, there's lots of amenities for the residents. So with that, that's kind of our proposal in a nutshell. But again, everyone's concerned with drainage and traffic and all those kinds of things, but we are designing a drainage system that will provide treatment and will control the rates of runoff off the site. There's a detention basin proposed close to the intersection of 140 and what we're calling Sunnyvale Drive, and that will collect and treat stormwater runoff and meet all local codes before it's discharged to the systems both to the east and west of us through existing swales or wetland systems. So with that, I will see if you have any immediate questions or concerns.
My first immediate question, are there any larger prints where we can see abutters?
Yes, full-size drawings were submitted, but I have one here.
Yeah,
if you'd
There-
like.
there are?
plan, yeah.
Can at some point see that?
I have it here. It's
Okay,
been
that's
down
all
the
right.
office.
I just,
Yeah, so if you.
I just
yeah,
don't know right now, you don't know.
I get it. Yeah. Mr. Chair,
Yes,
may I ask a question?
absolutely.
So the plan that you're referring to here, which we had discussed you wanted to use as a talking point. So can you explain to the board what's different?
Sure.
What features are different on this plan as the one that was submitted with the application and the one that the town engineer had reviewed? Just so that they know the differences.
Certainly. So we based our original design layout on record information and a site visit. And they're all proper methods to gather information. And we presented that to the town through the zoning board back in August. That had a similar main spur road with a loop road going more to the northeast as you see it on the plan. After we got approval, we continued our on-site investigations, doing soil testing, mapping the wetlands and things like that. And we found that there was a more extensive wetland system than was originally thought on the site. And then on viewing the surface conditions on the eastern quadrant of the site, it was very rocky at the surface. So that seemed like a bad place to try to put in loop roads, septic systems, and those things. So after we did all of our investigations, we tried to come up with a way to develop the site in a similar manner, but with the roadway in a different location. And that's really the short story here, is we've used the same main spur road, but we've sort of mirrored where the house lots will go. So they're in a much better place, construction-wise, soil condition-wise, than they would be if we went forward with our original proposal. So all of the criteria, in our opinion, where you would measure a zoning decision were still the same. And in fact, we have, a less dense project as a result. Because the wetlands component was larger than our original tabulation. And so it's actually got two less lots than we originally had.
Are these rentals?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The owner's house, where's that?
That's on home site located to the east. It's number 38. And again, these aren't lot numbers, they're home site numbers. So Mr. Sorrentino will have a property that's, the bulk of that half of the project.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'm looking at Roger, looking at the plan. So the plan that you're looking at is not that plan.
No, I know.
So
It's the
so
road's
the
similar.
house, the house lot is kind of off the plan. It's not.
Yeah, it's over here.
So when you're looking at, when you're looking at this sheet,
This.
when you're looking at this sheet, it's like
Oh, I thought it was this.
kind of up off the paper.
Yeah, so here's our spur road here off
So,
of
that-
40.
so he submitted this plan.
The butter thing, not on this plan.
Who's gonna be responsible for the upkeep and maintenance on the walking trails and those types of things?
Mr. Sorrentino and or his management company.
Will there be something in place in writing that, as far as, how often they'll be maintained?
Definitely for the infrastructure, and, he'll have a very close ear if there is a complaint about the condition of the walking trails.
I'm more concerned about the abutters than anything else.
Okay, well,
Okay.
you'll know where to find them.
Do you have a vegetation plan on here? I didn't see that.
Mean like a landscape
Yes.
plan?
For like buffers, vegetation buffers. And
Yeah, the good thing is there's gonna be a 75-foot vegetated buffer around the project as required. And then anything that we disturb, there will be a landscape plan. I think we'll have to do that at the site plan level, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not gonna leave everything just grassed, we want to provide a landscape plan.
that site already completely logged? Is it already roughed in?
It's not gonna get recorded if
I
you
know.
talk to him.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Just,
What he said.
Is that a retention pond just inside the gate there?
Yes, it's
Right there?
correct. So that will capture and treat runoff coming off the hill, through a swale system and culverts.
Would be other ones as well?
Catch basins in the road. Yeah, so that will capture everything and treat it and then discharge it to the swale system that's along Route 140.
So you're looking at about 75 cars? Is that what we're looking for, like, as far as
Yeah,
traffic
I
goes?
don't remember exactly what the count is, but whatever the table is that we've.
Is there anything that's gonna be done to Route 140 to, you know, like a pull-off lane, or is it just gonna, you're just gonna cut into it and?
Well, we're not gonna
I
just
just-
get into it, but yes.
Well, no, but it's,
we-
you
we
know,
have to get a deal-
obviously a concern is traffic.
True.
You're increasing the traffic on that road, you know, which is pretty winding as it is.
100%.
Yeah.
But yes, the estimates that we have are more in the background range
Mhm.
of growth as you go through. So, you know, one or so trips per hour is really not going to add, you know, an impact to the right of way. We are presently before the DOT for that application and approval for the driveway, but they've made no mention of a decel lane or an accel lane. Maybe there's going to be some signage, you know, intersection approaching but yeah, it should be a pretty conventional intersection, 24-foot road with appropriate radiuses.
Okay.
so, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I just wanted to just clarify something. So you mentioned something about site review.
Mhm.
When you receive site approval for site review. So there is no requirement for site plan review, it's subdivision. So our site plan regs are only require site plan approval for the use of tracks for non-residential uses or for multifamily dwelling units. That's it.
Well,
So what you're working on right now
yeah.
doesn't fall under those two categories.
all right,
So
well,
your presentation for your approvals is through your subdivision approval.
Okay, I thought.
I don't understand the question.
Yeah, well, this may have been last July, but I thought when we were talking with Norma and yourself, we talked about a path where subdivision approval were required and site plan. And I forget whether that was even a condition of the ZBA.
I don't think it was. I think I specified subdivision approval on my comments to the ZBA.
Okay.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to
there's-
just clarify.
No, but
that
there's a lot of overlap,
At the
so,
very beginning.
yeah, there's a lot of overlap, and if this was a conventional subdivision, I would understand if there were two separate processes.
Right. Yep. Not according to our regulations. It's not a separate process for
Okay.
this project, for
Okay.
this type of project. Because it is residential and it's not a multifamily unit. So it doesn't qualify for site plan.
Okay,
It's just subdivision.
Okay.
so we have design review and then
Right.
final subdivision,
Subdivision, right,
even though we're not subdividing anything. Okay.
right.
Any other questions? Any? I'm gonna open up to public, if public has any questions. I thought I heard okay. And just to clarify, the way that, you know, for you guys that aren't familiar with the planning board, when someone is speaking, we just don't let anyone just ask. You'll get your chance to ask questions, just write them down, and then when I open up public, then you'll have your chance. That's all. So, go ahead, sir. If you could come up here, just so we could record. If you're not talking into a microphone, it doesn't get recorded, so we don't get it in the minutes, so.
My name's Steve Warren, and we have lived at the end of Dudley Road at the cul-de-sac for 32 years. We moved here to be in a rural area and to raise our kids and hope to retire there. And this is a threat to our neighborhood. It's one property away from ours, and that one property has a financial interest in this one. The entrance to this development, or whatever you want to call it, is where? I don't understand. It's never been settled. Could you answer that, Mr. Roscoe?
Hold on, Don. Just state your name. Don Sorrentino, owner.
Right here on Frank C. Gilman Highway, this is the entrance. This is the only entrance on Frank Gilman Highway, on Route 140.
The one that's existing?
No, the existing one is approximately here. That's a temporary drive only for timber use.
Okay, so this
If you
is
drive
good.
past it, you'll notice there's a large piece of rock ledge.
Yes,
It's right in the middle of the rock ledge.
okay, so you're blasting.
I'm hoping I don't have to blast. I'm hoping I can just jackhammer.
At this time, there is no conversation with the state DOT. The questions that the DOT has for you and Treasure Coast, whatever you want to call it, they haven't had an answer for many months, is what I'm told today. This whole plan is based off of whether this can be approved, and nobody on Treasure Coast can answer or willing to answer any questions. So there's one issue I have. And to whom? I am a resident, not the state DOT, but I did interview them over and over again. I talked to them today. No, not me. The state can't get answers from the queries that they're putting into you.
We've made our application to DOT.
And they have problems with them. And
Turning the
they're
microphone
trying to get an approvable
Yeah.
one, and they have
Hang on
not
one
been
second.
able to get an approvable one.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, we have made our application, and there's an email query back and forth between myself and DOT. They have asked for information additional as these things go, and we have supplied that, so it's still under review. The decision likely probably won't come until after we finish our local process here with you folks. So, to say that we have not made our application, that's just
I
untrue.
didn't say you didn't make an application. They have queries about this application that it's not approvable unless these things have been answered. And he said for many months he has not had an answer from you people.
I don't think that's correct, sir, but we'll look into it, and, you know, it's in our best interest to make sure that we get this
I
permit.
mean, just for your comfort, though, we can't access Route 140 without state approval. We can't do anything.
Right.
So we.
So this whole project's a moot point.
No, it's not a moot point
You
because
can't get it.
the DOT has to give access at some point if we have to make accommodations for them, but they have to allow a property owner to have access to the road frontage.
So.
And we have to meet
this needs to get
standards.
straightened out. Is that right?
Well, we're working on it. Yeah, we're working
The
on it.
process.
Nobody is their point.
I don't think that that's correct, sir. But
Okay, lip service right now is not the time
Hang
to.
on, okay. Why don't we
Next.
just get to your questions?
Next.
Yep.
Yep, the, property value has been addressed, by, different meetings at the zoning board, which I hadn't been in attendance, but I read the information. Property values will be affected with a trailer park nearby. The density of the people, the, nobody can have a well that can draw water in the area, and you are putting in 123 bedrooms, and you want to drill a well or two to put out all of that. We don't even have like 4 houses that can draw water in that area. So,
yeah, well, that's Mr. Sorrentino's risk as a developer. And we intend to provide suitable water supply for the residents. The reason why I say we have to have 2 wells is because one will be redundant.
There's going to be a community water system there, so it's going to have a above-ground tank, so it won't have as much demand on a water well as you might think it would. To address the property values, we paid for an appraisal. This is not a trailer.
this is just a real estate agent
No.
conjecture.
No.
Conjecture, saying, yeah, it won't happen, and then you pay them.
No, we're not doing accusations.
Yeah.
What's the question?
Yeah.
What's the question?
He said he hired somebody.
No, we're not gonna do that, Mark. Don, we're not, just ask a question. What are the questions?
The question is, how is the neighborhood going to have enough water to live day to day when they are putting 123 bedrooms worth of people drawing water on the same area, aquifer? And the value, if you can't draw water, enough water for your household, you can't sell your house for the same value. That's just one aspect.
So just to answer that question, if I did a conventional neighborhood and we developed the property into 40 homes, that would be 40 individual wells. It would be a much higher demand on the neighborhood than this is. And the Department of Environmental Services has to approve any water system that we have. So they do a pump test, a recovery test, there's holding tanks and backup power. It's probably 10 times more restrictive than it would be if they were just single-family homes.
I see. Blasting. People have had to have their wells fracked, and blasting can affect the wells in the area, can affect our foundations. That's a concern I have. These numbers that are proposed for trips for in and out of the project. You have 38, 39 units, yet here proposed trip generation, the total number of in and out for, at peak, for a week is 26 cars, it says.
If I'm reading this correct, sir, that's total on a Saturday. Total trips on Saturday in 26. Saturday peak hour. When most folks are doing their errands.
So let's,
So that's 26 new trips. So it's less than one every 2 minutes.
so it's saying well, let's break it down then. Weekday in the morning, 15 trips, and you have 39 units. 15 out, 23 back. 2 cars per unit. It seems incorrect by a long shot. If you counted other areas like Dudley Road, which is a dead end, you could count that and the numbers would be a lot higher and there's fewer bedrooms.
Well, I agree with you on that point. It's fewer bedrooms. We're only doing 38. So this is an overestimate, but this is established data used by the Institute of Traffic Engineers for projecting trip effects on local traffic. It's not made up. It's based on real data.
Is this property going to be transferred in the future to become a church property or a highway or a halfway house?
Who you asking?
Are you asking me that? or-
You told me to propose these things in a question. Do you want me
No,
to
that's
stare at him or
No,
you're running the meeting, right?
Another reason, has nothing to do with this property. He 5 years from now, he can do anything he wants with it.
So
It's not-
he's paying the taxes now when he rents them out, but he can sell the thing and not pay the taxes. Is that sell the unit separately?
He can't do
We're
that.
trying to,
No,
No.
no, it's one property.
Yes.
They're rental units.
They're rental
aren't
units.
sold.
and they're always gonna stay that way?
It's one property.
He'd have to do a major subdivision.
have to
if he wanted
subdivide.
do anything different.
And the homes that are on those lots would never even come close to qualifying by town standards, so no.
Right.
It's not like he can individually sell those.
I was bringing this information up from reading the zoning board minutes. I happen to be in Florida, and I'm not making an accusation, I'm just bringing up information that was out there. I have no allegations, just trying to bring up our concerns of being in the neighborhood.
Well, speaking of being in the neighborhood, like I say, I don't have an abutter list. Are you on 140?
No,
So the
I'm,
trip data
I'm
really.
I'm one house away from the property.
So car travel really doesn't affect you anyway.
On 140, right, but I'm saying there's a safety concern there, the trucks come flying through.
Safety concern. He won't get his permit.
Yeah, I was saying that it's not approvable as such. Yeah. Is it possible to suggest, since they're gonna have walking trails around the outside and things, to put a fence to keep people from going through yards and from up in the Dudley Road area to make that buffer firm? I know it has worked in many other cases, and sound-wise, it would help as well. Is that possible? Is my question.
I'm sorry, repeat the question, please?
Is that possible to put a fence, a solid fence around, you know, like those white fiberglass style, to separate the neighborhoods, to delineate, to help with affecting others?
There's no plan on doing that. We have the 75%, 75-foot setback with vegetation, and the walking trails aren't going to penetrate that, so.
Have you walked it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of spots that don't have vegetation.
Well, we have to provide it. So
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yep.
All right. That's a thought. Those are my main questions that I have. I'll let somebody else have some time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any other from public? Anybody else? Have any questions or?
So I think
Can we get your name, please, sir?
Jim Parandis. I have property on Dudley and Tibbetts Road. So it seems to me, I don't know if this is on purpose or not, but this map doesn't show all the abutters. And I have it here. This property used to be one solid property, and what happened is, when it was subdivided, it was with the intention of this development, or a development. And so I don't know the relationship between the buyer and this here, but it was subdivided in such a way, this is all my land on this other side. It was subdivided in such a way that there's no abutters.
So that yellow zone is.
That yellow zone is, this was all one lot, and
Yeah.
this yellow zone is now the lot that abuts this property. Now, my concern is, I have a lot of concerns because
Who
Kenny,
owns that lot? That
this is
separation lot?
Sam Hollow.
Oh, he still owns it then? Okay.
He owns this, yeah.
And he owns the whole parcel.
No, well, that's, I don't know.
Yeah, he did.
It's gone through LLCs and all kinds of stuff, but as far as I know, they bought it from him. They know him, even though they said they don't. He was a manager at one point. I don't know if he's the manager now. And this is all my land here. This land, the town made, on the original subdivision, they made him give this slot here out to 140 because he has no abutting land on Dudley Road. So this was done for driveway access. And then Kenny Roberts gave him a driveway permit. He ended up getting a building permit and he put it in. So he literally crosses my land now to access Dudley Road. Now, I had the ability to go after the town for this, legally. And the way I looked at it is, it was gonna, this huge parcel was gonna be subdivided into 2 lots. And, you can't, I'm a builder, so I understand that houses get built and so forth and so on. So there was one house here, and that's fine. So I sort of let it go because I didn't want a development there. Then what happens is, he had told me that he was gonna put another couple of houses on this other lot and try to sell it to reimburse his funds or what have you. Anyways, jumping forward to this development, the problem, I have several issues here. Because these guys are in together in some form or manner, the utilities come down Tibbetts Road on my property, so there's a possibility that Sam can just say, yeah, come in from my end, I'll give you the right, and there would be nothing I can do, and then all of a sudden, all the crap's going through my yard. Then it will be, now I'm gonna have to contact an attorney, and I'm gonna have to sue somebody or go after somebody, because there is no, I have all the documentation. He does not have any abutting property on Dudley Road. It's all on Tibbetts Road. And what's worse is they lied on the.
Abutting, what do you mean, road frontage?
What's that?
When you keep saying abutting property, do you mean?
Sam
road
Hollow has
frontage?
no abutting property on Dudley Road.
Road frontage, you mean?
Road frontage.
So,
Road
sir,
frontage.
sorry, you're concerned about how they're gonna get power to the development, like where they're gonna,
I'm concerned about how they're gonna get power there. I'm concerned about what happens later with more subdivision. This looks awful peculiar. It's set up to me that they could put in 3 more roads with 3 more cul-de-sacs just opposite of that plan. It's gonna be like another Eagles Rest, just keep, they'll say they can do so much and then just keep going.
Does Hollows have power? Does the power go to
Yes,
Holt?
off of Tibbetts.
Can we just have them answer, you guys answer how you're gonna get power to the,
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
Just quick point. I have the drawing in my bag here, but, yeah, this property was subdivided by the Hollows,
okay,
several years ago. And I'm assuming it's just for retirement purposes and investment. But yeah, we're pulling power from 140.
okay.
There will be
And-
nothing that goes
And
across
there's-
Tibbetts
there's-
Road,
There's nothing
right?
nefarious here. You know, anything that has to be built on this lot has certain standards. Excuse me.
Yeah, just let me
Excuse me.
finish, yeah.
I'm trying to answer your question. The dead-end roads cannot be continued because we would be in non-compliance with local regulations. So
No, I was talking about adding more roads, more dead ends opposite that.
do that because we would exceed the local requirement.
What about the watershed? The watershed, are you guys putting in retention ponds, or what's the plan? there?
Yes, sir.
You are?
Does that answer your power question?
Yeah.
What's that?
Does that answer your power question?
For now, I mean,
Okay.
everything is sugar-coated, but when stuff comes, it's a lot shorter to come right in from Tibbetts Road, so I don't know if there's a stipulation that can be written in there or what have you. but
There is.
We have no frontage.
Yeah,
Does the power come down, must come down 140
yeah,
anyway,
there's power.
No, but if
It
Sam, if
ends.
Sam Hostel gives you an okay, just like he can give you an okay to go out to the Dudley Road side, even, I mean, you can put, you know how it works, I know how it works, you put in all these rules and then you end up down the road, it happens
I think
anyways.
maybe the chairman can answer this, but
Yeah.
honestly, I think even if he gave me an easement through his property, I don't think the town in a million years would let me
No,
run a driveway with 37 homes out onto Dudley.
How about one home? How about your home?
I don't think they would allow that either because this is the plan that's.
yeah, we have, the plan gets approved as is, so you can't change it.
And there's a stipulation on the zoning action that says
Right.
we can't.
Yeah. So,
On top of that.
So who runs this? Who runs the utilities? Who takes care of this? Who takes care of the roads? Is it all, and these are all rentals, correct?
Privately maintained town.
If
Town maintains it? Wrong answer.
it's privately owned,
yes,
take your microphone away.
And then-
There is,
So,
let,
by who? You? And then what if you decide to move or or something, something happens?
If I sold it, then the next proprietor would have.
right. The whole property would be sold as one,
It
Right.
can never be subdivided.
including all the rentals.
And there's no oversight on who they're rented to or any of that. It's up to whoever they want. And then, is that correct? I mean, there's no oversight. I mean,
The only thing you can do
as the owner
is an ageling. He can make it an over such and such. But as far as anything else, he can't
Yeah.
by law.
Hmm.
If someone calls up and says, do you take
No,
section
I
8?
understand that.
And he says no,
Well,
he's in trouble.
he mentioned to me that he was gonna require, I mean, at first I thought it was low, but you mentioned that you were gonna require like a $5,000 deposit.
What I had discussed with you is it's not low-income housing.
Mm.
It's definitely not low-income housing. These are all brand-new units. They're 3-bedroom, 2-bath units. There's probably gonna be families, there's probably gonna be senior citizens, there's probably gonna be vacationers. It's gonna be a mix.
Yeah, we're trying to attract
And this is
affordable
in no
housing.
way affiliated with Sam and the Bible conference or any of that in the future or.
Sam's not associated with
Because
it.
I've never even met Sam.
Sam's intent was to develop that infinite.
It's not. In the conference center.
Okay, all right. We're gonna get away from speculation. We're gonna just stick with questions for the applicant, okay? Yeah,
Trying to attract an affordable housing option to the town of Alton, to attract teachers and service providers to the town because they can't afford to live here. And that's it. So,
And so the watershed, especially since they pushed all the units off to that side, that entire watershed feeds onto my property. So I imagine that somehow is gonna be taken care of with retention ponds or, I don't see any plan. I mean, I don't see any real plans yet.
well, they're on the drawings, sir, engineering detail drawings. We have a retention pond at that location near the intersection, and that collects the runoff from the developed portion of our project. We're going to treat it, retain it, and then release the stormwater. We're required to meet or reduce the flow off-site. I don't know how much more I can say.
I don't have much more to say. I mean, I have issues with, obviously, with the blasting and the well and the waters as runoff. I guess my biggest concern is obviously coming back through. I don't want to get involved with everything coming back through Tibbetts. It's real important, and I understand everything can be stipulated that way, but I also, as a builder for 42 years, understand that stuff changes as soon as everything's, I mean, I get the ins and outs. I understand it all. So, my fear is in whatever they stipulate won't be abide by in the future. I know.
Well, if they did it, it'd be illegal. They, you know, anything that anybody wants to do, they have to apply and come before us. So, and there'd be public notices. So it doesn't matter what you see here, what they're proposing is, and once that's approved, that's what it is.
And then
that's you know, that's what it is, and that's the way that it stays.
Okay.
I understand your concern, sir.
Well, yeah, and the
You know,
final,
I
you know,
understand.
my last final input would be, and obviously people see differently on these, but I have no idea or no understanding how this helps a community. It helps him make money, that's for sure, but it does not, I don't know how this helps. It puts, you know, burdens on the schools, it puts burdens on the highways that, you know, I don't even know how the tax situation works with rentals. I don't know how all that are.
Well,
and I know everybody pushes for more low-income housing, but he just stated it's not low-income housing, so I don't understand how.
I think the issue is housing in general, in not just New Hampshire, but everywhere.
The school has to take into.
The school actually wants kids. They have a program where they're taking kids because we get paid for it.
And I think I mentioned it to you after another meeting when we spoke in the hallway, that I have kids who are adults who have a lot of friends whose family live in town and they can't move back to town to be with their families. I have, my son works for Mains Electric. He works with people who are driving 45 minutes to get to the shop here. People would like to live here and they can't afford it. 2 new houses that are going up for spec, one of them's gonna be priced at $650, the other one's gonna be priced at $550. Nobody can afford that.
That's true, but the same token, all these people, especially these people on Dudley Road who are concerned and everybody else, don't want to live in Rochester. They like the woods, they like the rural, they hike, they do all these things. You're coming in and you turn it into Rochester, you know.
I disagree.
We agree on disagreeing, we agreed on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anything else from public?
Hello, my name is Karsten Peters and I live at 457 Dudley Road. And I also, I had 4 concerns, but I think some of them were resolved, like no access to Dudley and Tibbetts Road, and that's all sort of been settled, so I appreciate that. I do have some concerns about the well water we have up there. So up on the top there, the aquifer that we're on is stressed. And it looks like we're going to be in a situation where somebody comes in there, drills a well, and sucks out all the water. And that is definitely going to impact the value of my house. And are we just saying that that's sort of the moral hazard that you have by owning a house in Alton? Or is the town going to consider that? Because I think that makes someone a not very good neighbor, quite frankly. Because drilling a new well is $30,000–$40,000 up there. The wells are very deep, 700–800 feet. We have 2 neighbors on the other side of the road where I live that have to frack their wells once, sorry, you can only do it once, that's the issue. Then you have to drill a new well. So I guess I would be asking the builder, is there some way of figuring this out so we don't end up in a situation where everybody who lives on Sunnyside and the top where I live ends up basically with 10 houses that doesn't have any drinking water?
Well, the well drillers are certified by the state to do a site review,
Yeah.
and they're supposed to know which aquifers they're asking, or accessing. However, you know, I can appreciate your concern, but every property owner has a right to try to find
Yeah.
water on their property to live off of. So I don't know how there's any guarantees in that.
Well, maybe try to move it further away from the houses that are currently having the problem. That would be one. I mean, you're gonna run into some problems because there's a lot of, I mean,
Just one thing that I do know about wells, and I know a lot of people up there, like in the Grandview area there and stuff. I have a piece of property over here on the Durham Road, so this is all one piece of property.
Yeah.
I have 2 wells on this property. They're probably 250 feet apart. This one over here was the first one that I drilled, and then I had to frack it
Yeah.
to get almost 5 gallons a minute.
Yeah.
Not a good well. This one over here we drilled, I get 100 gallons a minute. They're about 250 feet apart. So there's no real, I'm sure this one's not sucking it out of this one, because this one barely had it to start off with.
well, the problem undoubtedly is that there's apparently a big difference in the quality. So a few houses further down, there's somebody who has plenty of water, but it's all iron because we're living right on top of her.
Everybody has iron.
Yeah, but it's
This
like
is the Granite State.
coffee-colored water coming out, and that's like after 20 years, it still looks like that. So I'm just saying that it's something that's probably worth investigating before I get too deep into the.
Yes, and it will be up to us to prove that we can provide adequate water supply for the project
Yeah, okay.
before it's approved.
And then last time I brought up some other things. The access to 140, it sounds like you moved it further down to the Rock Ridge, up towards, further up towards Ironworks.
I mean,
Yeah,
The driveway.
access
Oh,
road.
yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
because I was looking at the existing road, and there's no way that will be compliant, but that's your problem, basically, I guess.
We've chosen probably the worst from a construction point of view, but emphasizing safety.
And the other thing is just, I would like to sort of reiterate some of the comments that Jim made here. I mean, I do understand the need for affordable housing. This is a general problem everywhere. But I don't think you're doing the town a favor by adding costs to the town. This will be diluted to the tax base. So if you bring in 20, 40 kids, that's $1 million a year to the town that we need to find somewhere else. It's just a fact. And, you know, making it possible for some people to move into here by raising my taxes is not going to do a whole lot of making it more affordable to live in Alton. So when you are looking at these projects, I don't think this is a good project. That's my opinion. And I don't think that in the attempt of creating something that's affordable, you just spread the cost out to everybody else here. That's fair. I think I'm going to stop here. I had lots of other comments that I've presented to the zoning board, but they have already passed that, so left. One comment I did have was when you cleared all the land down there, I live up on the top, and because it's a rock ledge, it was incredibly noisy. We have a large piece of land out there that we have restored for nature use, and my daughter is a restorative biologist, so she was involved in this project, and when all this clearing was done, we could hardly be outside. There hasn't been any noise since the zoning board meeting. I would request, though, that if this building project is going to go on for a long time, that you put some reasonable working hours restrictions on that. And I would be fine with something like sun up to sundown or something, but not late into the night. And if you can avoid it, please don't do it in the weekends, because we actually like our neighborhood. And it has been a very quiet neighborhood until this. I do understand the clearing land is noisy, and
We don't anticipate as much noise as the timber cutting
Yeah.
was. The manufactured houses come in all assembled, so you won't even hear a.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was particularly the wood chippers and all that. I mean, because they would run until 10, 11 o'clock at night. It was like, in my bedroom, it's like, oh, you know, not cool. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from public? Oh, you get one here.
Hi, Hi, my name's Brianna Heald. I live on Dudley Road. My main concerns, or I guess questions, I know that Nick Bonaparte, brought up about the maintaining of the walking trails and things like that. My understanding is that this is going to go forward, and that is what it is. But I would like to know how you propose to maintain all these homes and the property. I understand that you're one person. It's a lot for one person. Are you planning on hiring out? And things like that. And then for the vegetation that I know that you're supposed to have around the border, how tall is that going to be? Things like that.
The vegetation zone is going to be mostly natural trees. So whatever the height of white pines are, 50 feet or so.
Okay.
So it's going to be all natural. And as far as maintaining it, I mean, I've been maintaining properties for 20 years. We hire vendors to do manual labor and, whatever it takes.
Yeah, I understand. With rental properties, it's, a lot of people don't have that sense of ownership. And I've rented homes before. I've seen it go not great.
I live on 140 now. I've been there for 20 years. I plan on living right next door to this property. I don't plan on letting my neighbors trash the place.
I understand. My house is just about as close as your proposed house is, so I hope you understand why. I'm also sure I'm about the same age as your kids probably are, and I understand the reason for wanting housing and not technically affordable housing, but I also feel like I don't know people my age that could afford what you're also asking for, so I don't know who the target demographic is here. I understand it's probably families, and I know that you said too it was a variety of whether seasonal people, elderly people, families. I just don't know how, if you're wanting a younger demographic, how that's genuinely going to happen.
There's no target demographic. There's
Okay.
no target demographic.
Okay. I guess that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name's Jack Faulkner, I live on Grandview around the corner. Two things, and just to say it, I appreciate the fact that we've kind of dispensed with this idea that Dudley's gonna be this through street. And I appreciate the fact that they seem to be doing, the concern is the water. That is the concern you hear from everybody, and there's a few people that would have been here tonight. We've all been to several meetings, but life got in the way. When I spoke to the developer after a zoning meeting and talked about the concern about the water, the answer was, well, we're only putting in 1 or 2 wells. Well, the usage of the water is going to be what it's going to be. You're going to have well over 100 people. And let's just have a quick math moment here, and it's kind of a sad state of things, but my understanding is these are going to rent for $2,500 a month. That's $30K a year, and we're not building equity if you rent there. And this is now what we consider low income, and that's a whole other conversation. But you're going to end up with more than people than they're saying, because that's how they're going to swing. As this young woman said, there's not a lot of people that can do 2,500. I mean, if you're a single mom teaching in one of these school districts and you've got a kid or two at home, and I just described a whole lot of people, they can't swing 30K a year on their salary. A lot of these people, their exes aren't covering as they should. And that's just the reality. I own rental properties down in Philadelphia. We rent for $1,500 in a trendy neighborhood with nice kitchens and nice bathrooms, and I don't make as much money as I could, but it's okay. I'm not trying to be a Rockefeller here, but the water thing is a huge concern. I mean, you've heard there are already people that are having issues with that, and you're going to end up north of 150 people here. within a couple of years, because that's how people are going to be able to afford to swing a rent like this. And I hope that we can take out of the conversation, well, there's only going to be one or two wells. The water usage is the water usage. You know, I had one of my properties, you know, that a couple left and a couple with a 13-year-old girl moved in, and she's taking 13-year-old girl showers, and the water bill, which I cover, literally doubled, which goes to usage. And this is topic one. Now that we feel pretty well that we feel like you all are being honest with us, and Dudley's not going to be turned into a highway, which we appreciate. This is the number one concern. We're at a time up there now where there are a lot more younger people moving in, people with young kids. And so, the feeling of it up there is changing, and that's it. It's the water. Do the math on who can actually afford to spend $30K. And I understand, real estate, and I'm sure he's got a note on the property and costs, but do we really need 30? Are we all supposed to jump cartwheels because we went from 39 units to 37? It's not going to affect the water use that much. So that's it. Thanks for listening. You have any questions, Bill?
Yeah. Well, you seem to be going back and forth between two different issues. One was the water, which is everybody's issue.
Yeah.
And the other is whether or not he's going to make any money.
No, he's entitled to make money. I own property. I get it. I get it, yeah.
I think he's going to have a hard time filling those. It's going to take him some time.
Well, I think what you're going to end up with is what I'm
phasing.
discussing is a couple of families in place.
You're not going to get a couple of families in a mobile home.
Your lips to God's ears.
This isn't where you think it is.
Well, I know this is ancient history. Once upon a time, the equation was your rent is 1 week's pay of every month. If they're making 120, they're not living there. You got a lot of people, you got probably a lot of households where they're making, depending on if it's two people working or not, it's probably 45 to 80, 90. That's all. Even at a third, if you've got kids, that's a lot of money. And I understand. I'm not espousing socialism, Lord knows. I understand it's tough to make a buck, and, real estate costs are what they are. I get it. But, I'll be surprised if a few years from now we're not seeing that's the only way you're going to make it work. Is you get a lot of people in these houses. And my concern with that goes to water usage. How many, a single mom with a kid who's teaching anywhere around here, or a lot of the sort of service jobs, they're not going to be able to swing 30K. So you're going to end up with more water usage, because the way it'll be is, come on, move in with me. We have friends that are 40-ish, and the marriage breaks up, and they start looking around for people that they think they can live with.
Well, usually they move back home to moms.
Well, and the key word is usually, but not always. And sometimes mom's not an issue, like quite often mom's not an issue.
Well,
these people that I spoke about.
Find that he's not getting $2,500 a month. Maybe when he gets going here, he's going to say, "Oh, geez, that's a little high. I'm not going to get it." Maybe he's down to 2. And if he's renting a 3-bedroom for 2, he's going to fill them. And they're going to afford it.
Okay, we'll see.
I rent 2 bedrooms for 18.
Yep, well, yeah.
The only thing I want to just add, just like he said, we don't know where we're going to end up with this, and I may have a hard time filling them. But bottom line is, for any family to try to pay a mortgage, taxes, and insurance in this town is well over $4,300 a month. Okay, so this is about half of that. And the average income in Belknap County is $90,000 a year. So there's people that do want to live here that will make it work. Young people that work with my wife, they're looking at $400,000 houses right now. People are paying almost their entire month's salary to live in a house. That's how bad the housing
No, I
crisis
appreciate, I
is.
understand, yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But you're probably not looking at people, yes, the average is 90K for the county, which is right. But you have a lot of people that are seriously wealthy pulling that number way up. And the reality is you have, if you look at a graph, there's a whole lot of people between 60 and 80. And, I get it. I mean, we're in a tough situation here. I get that you're, it's not easy to, you work the numbers and you think, why am I putting myself through all these headaches? I get it. But I think I hope that we can take out of the conversation this, well, there's only going to be one well or two wells, and talk about the number of people who are actually going to be living here. That's pretty much it. Thank you for your
All
time.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from public?
Hi, my name's Rich Kuchar. I live on 500 Dudley Road. I abut the property that they're putting their development in on. Can anybody answer when DES gets involved because of the wells? Because when there's a big place like that going in, from what I read, and I'm not positive I read it totally correctly, but it said when you're putting in a big place like that, that they will come in and actually monitor my well, because I'm abutting his property, as they're doing their work to make sure it doesn't do something to my well. Because
Let me make sure I heard you. They're gonna monitor your well as they're doing work?
if I give them permission, they'll monitor my well, all right, as they're doing stuff to make their well.
As they're building? Okay.
Correct, to make sure they're not sucking my well dry. As a lot of people have said,
Well, that would be two different things.
well, if it's in the same aquifer, say they get,
I'm saying, you said DES is gonna come in and monitor your well while they're working.
on their well. If I understood it
While
correctly.
their well is working, or while they're
No.
working on their well?
While they're drilling, and I guess they have to show that it produces enough water for their place.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure that's exactly how it works, but we contacted DES and they said they don't know anything about it yet. What's going on with the development. So my question was, does anybody know at what point they get involved? Because I would give them permission to monitor my well, monitor my
They're more apt to get involved in the septic end of it rather than the
I
the
don't know.
water end is gonna be tested and monitored after the well is drilled.
I'm not sure exactly what point they get involved in it, but they do get involved in it, they said. And they do monitor if they get permission from neighbors' wells. Right, because like he had said, he's my neighbor. He went down 700 feet and he was only getting 2 gallons a minute. Okay, I'm closer to the development than my son, and I went down 400 and something feet, but I get 5 gallons a minute. My son had the frack to go from 2 gallons a minute to 5 gallons a minute. Okay, but there's people beyond us that are getting less than that, and some people are getting poor quality water because they got to get all kinds of filters and stuff like that. So with this going in, at first they said, oh yeah, it's just going to be one big well. All right, now that they had said something about, oh, they need 2 wells because it's got to have a backup for this other well. So if they do that, you got to have 2 wells that can produce enough water for 39 families. What's that going to do to us?
Well, if I can answer a little bit, yes, that is a requirement. We'll be doing test drilling and evaluations, and we have to notify the neighbors or in a certain radius when those tests will be done. So the well driller that we are going to be working with, will reach out to you and see if you have any issues and monitor.
But where would DES get involved with that?
Well, to prove out the quality and the flow in the wells.
Okay.
So
I
our
mean,
well,
I can't imagine your well drill being any different than any other one that I've ever had, the numerous wells they've had, where they come in and say, where do you want your well? And
Well,
we
this
say,
is a public water supply, so it's a little bit different than a private well.
Okay.
So there's a lot of oversight at the state level.
So if my well goes dry, who do I see? Because they sucked all the water out of it.
Well, like I said, we'll be monitoring that
Yeah.
as we do the drawdown testing. We have to run.
But that didn't answer my question. Who
Well,
do
I'm
I
trying
see
to answer it.
if that happens?
Well, again, we'll monitor that when we do the drawdown testing
Okay?
to test the viability of the well. And if it affects your well adversely, then we have to do something else. So there'll be state oversight for this because it's a public
So it's
water
not gonna
supply.
be, tough shit, buddy. See ya.
I'm not gonna answer.
No.
Okay, anyway, yeah, we'll just stick with questions, not speculation.
Question.
Well,
Because when I went down to the town hall, I asked them, you know, if these guys suck all the water out of my well, my son's well, and some of the other neighbors, what happens? He goes, Mother Nature. So that's kind of a kick in the butt. I mean, we spent over $20-something thousand apiece on our wells up there. And now I'm retired. I gotta go out and take out a loan to put another well in, if I can find some water. Because they got a reserve well plus a regular well.
I understand what you're saying, but again, like he said, people have they have the right to put a well on their
Right.
property,
They do.
you know? And it's gonna be monitored, you know, as they do the
That'd be
testing for it.
It's just amazing, you know, I bought this land and this stuff wasn't supposed to be going in there like it was, you know? And people like you just sat there and gave special exceptions.
We're not giving.
We're
any
not
special
doing
exceptions.
that.
No, not you guys.
Well, don't say that you just said
Well,
that.
I'm
You just said
talking
we,
the
people like
From
you,
the other meeting that we went to,
okay?
okay? And it seemed like a lot of snickering going on, you know, about us whining about water, which without water, your house is useless.
So are you talking about the zoning board? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
Okay, that's not us, we're the planning board.
I realize
Okay,
that.
we're not
But I'm
snickering.
just saying,
We're not snickering, we're
it's
just,
like, does anybody really care besides us?
Why do you think we're up here?
that's why we're here. We're all volunteers, you know. Yeah,
And say, no, yeah, it don't affect me. No?
That's nice of
Okay.
you to say.
Okay,
That's
so-
nice of you.
okay. We're not gonna.
Are you done with
speculate.
questions?
Yeah, are you
You
done
done?
with the questions? Okay, 'cause-
Thanks.
yeah. Any other questions from public?
Hi, I'm Arnani Spalazzi, 685 Route 140 in Alton. My concerns are about the current water flow from this property. If you're aware, the flooding on 140 a few years ago
Yep.
up in my end, it wiped out the road and my driveway twice in the past 10 years from the water that came out of this property. The water came from the property. It flooded. They're talking about putting retention ponds in, but I think that's for their runoff of their property, roads or whatever goes in it. I spoke to the state survey crew on 140 that was out there recently. They said the survey is because of the flooding on 140. There was a swamp at the top of this property. It's visible on Google Maps. That's how big it is. If the natural flow of these waters is interrupted by the project, it will directly impact my property or my neighbors. When I purchased my retirement cabin in the woods 39 years ago next month, I didn't know I would go from neighbors of 2 houses, about 8 people, to 40 buildings and about 180 people. And the people on Dudley Street were complaining about the water. Will this affect my well? I'm right next door. I don't know. But anyway, here, may I show you a picture of my driveway?
Is this a washed out form?
That's a waterfall. That's my driveway. There was an 8-foot hole next to it. This is the front of my driveway, front of my property, where the water came out of that property. This is my driveway. It's a waterfall.
Mhm.
There's an 8-foot hole there. Wiped out the road, and if you look at this, that's a Coffin Brook Road. That was the rest
Yeah.
I was there, yeah, it was a mess. I was there.
That, if they build this and it makes the water go this way or that way, it'll wipe out my neighbor's yard or my yard or anything else unless they can do something about diverting that problem.
Well, what happens with the engineering is they've got this centralized, you can't see it there, but this is the area where they'll have all their buildings.
Right.
Okay, so what the engineers do is every drop of water, they account for every drop of water that can't go into the ground.
Right.
Like through a roof, okay, so they account for that, and this pond right here collects this, it's a detention pond.
Okay.
There's two different kinds. This one's a detention, which holds the water, and that, all the water that is not going into the ground because of this development will be held there. Now, that doesn't mean that this water isn't gonna come across the street and hit you. It still can come.
Not
But that has
necessarily.
nothing to
I'm
do
worried
with
about
that.
my property. If it comes to my property, it'll make a groove like you wouldn't believe.
Did you understand what I was telling you?
Yeah.
This water here, where they're not doing anything.
Right.
Can still come across the street and take out your driveway. They are responsible for
Right.
the area, this area here, where they're building,
Oil and stuff, right.
goes into the detention pond. They have to hold that.
Right.
That water's not coming to
So
you.
what they're building is gonna.
So before they do anything, all this water's coming to you. Now they're gonna stop it from coming
Comes
to
out to
you.
the road.
It's
Doesn't
it's
come through
acting
my
in your
property.
favor.
It's not coming through my property, it's going to the road. If this,
No, it's gonna stay right there on the property. It doesn't come, it gets held, it's retained. The water from this development
right,
gets held.
from the development, not from the swamp up above.
I don't know anything about the swamp.
You wanna see a picture?
But it doesn't.
It's on Google Maps.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But the water comes from there,
But he-
flows down, there's two streams running through this property where the ledge is to 140. There's a little stream in the front that's 6 feet below the road. That whole area filled up with water before it went out onto 140. So imagine the amount of water that's gonna be.
Sir, just a
Coming
question.
through.
So if they didn't develop this and that swamp was still there and there was a heavy
It
rainstorm,
would
would it
just
still
flow
flow?
away.
It would flow into your driveway?
No, it would not. It would flow to the
So
road.
what, I'm just trying to, Roger just explained how this development would be taken care of as far as the water drainage goes. So you're saying the swamp up above, they're not touching that, right?
Right, but if the water come from that area, instead of going down to the road, goes west to my neighbor who has two little streams there now, will have a river.
But it's not, it's gonna go into that.
You sure?
It's gonna go into, that's what the plan says, yes, and it's engineered that way. For, like Roger said, for every drop of water. For every drop of water is accounted into that basin.
From the flood.
From the development,
From
yeah.
all the water
From
that
all the
wiped
water
out the
that's.
road all the way down to,
No,
off of Brook
from
Road.
the development.
From the develop- I
We're
understand
concerned
that.
about the development. That's what we're
Right.
concerned about.
Not the water that would wipe out my land or my neighbor's lands.
I don't understand what you're getting at.
You're missing the point.
No.
Okay, so let's not even talk about the development. Let's just talk about the land across the street from it. Okay, and you got a heavy rain there years back.
Right.
All the rain came down the hill, wiped out your driveway.
That's, yeah,
Right.
from the road, right
So
from the
that had
road.
that had nothing to do with that.
Right,
Okay, all right, so now we're gonna put in the development.
right.
So here's a development, here's the land, okay? So every bit of rain that lands in this development is gonna come down and get caught in this detention pond. Everything around it can still come down, and if it's heavy enough, can still wipe out your driveway.
Right, but it's not.
But it has nothing-
It's not going through my property. I'm worried about if they develop it and it goes left or right, instead of going this way, it'll.
It's not gonna go down the middle, it's gonna go left or right.
Okay. Anyone else from public? Anybody else got anything? Sure. Sure.
Again, this is Ryan Heath. I'm the town administrator. And the only thing I want to address, obviously, I'm not in a butter to the project or anything like that, but there was a lot of concerns about water usage. The comment was asked a number of times, who gets involved, when does DES get involved? And one gentleman spoke about coming into the town and wanting answers from the town. So I thought it was just pertinent to stress the fact that the term public water system is a definition now that it's a water source that is going to service more than 15 service connections or 25 or more residents for 60 days or longer. And that's important because it is governed by state and federal oversight. It's not like you and I on a residential home getting a site plan approval and drilling a single residential well, and all it is registered at DES. The public water system that the developer's gonna be required to put in is going to be continually, annually, quarterly monitored, tested, and all has to be run through DES. So the oversight, just for the abutters and the concerns, I wanted to make sure that they understood before they left here that it is state and federal oversight, not local. The town of Alton has no control over a public water system. Our public water system, meaning the town of Alton's water system, submits to the same testing requirements that the developer will now have to. So part of their approval process, and obviously most likely as a condition of any approval the board would give them, would make sure that they are compliant with state and federal regulations on their public water supply. And part of that also is uses levels, the drawdown, that is all oversighted by DES. DES has a special division that just handles public water systems. So I thought that was important just to clarify some of those questions.
That's great. No,
Eric.
thank you, Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you have another question, sir?
Yes, Steve Warren, 469 Dudley. So that's all fine and good, what he just said. And that is what controls this development's water system. They oversee it and everything is hunky-dory, it's public and everything, but nobody is looking out for us individuals.
I thought he just kind of clarified that.
No, he
with-
said public water supply is strictly monitored quarterly, yearly, and the amount, the drawdown, everything. What about our water? Is somebody gonna say, is their system affecting ours? No, nobody's gonna be interested after this is put in.
Sir,
Well, actually,
thanks to Mr. Couture, I looked up their requirements, and they're quite rigorous, as Mr. Heath said. They have the 72 hours of pumping. They have to monitor everything. They have to make sure the recharge is correct. If you're within 1,000 feet, they will check your well while they're doing this. As Mr. Heath said, they're going to continue doing this. It's not like, I mean, if they put a 40-unit subdivision in there, you wouldn't have any say. And in this way, at least now the state is involved. Now you do have somebody to complain to. You complain to the DES, you can complain to the EPA. If they were single wells, you wouldn't have anything and on top of that, they're talking about putting holding tanks. So there's not going to be a constant draw on the water as it would be if it was a 40-unit single families. Now, I'm not trying to defend them. I'm not saying anything else. I'm just trying to
It
point
seems
out.
as though the board is constantly defending them.
No, I'm
Is
looking
it
at the
pre,
information that somebody
he's
gave
actually
us.
defending,
I went above and beyond.
he's actually
do this.
defending.
I see.
Right here's where it's, with what Mr. Kuchar had said, that he can be monitored.
Mhm.
Okay, water levels in private and public wells within 1,000 feet of proposed new source wells can be monitored if permission has been obtained from the owner. If you want your well monitored, you just give them permission.
Okay, okay.
Now, I'm,
Well, what I'm trying to say is you have protections. You're actually having more protection with the public well or public water system than you would if it was if they put, let's say, 10 units, 10 single-family homes.
But the wells would be spread out is what I was getting at. I was
It's still a
reacting
drop
to
in the
that. One of the wells on the plan is right on Mr. Cooch's border. Actually, it's the only one on there.
If they don't meet the requirements, they're done.
Right.
It's up to us to prove it, and
Yeah.
there is state oversight during
So
all
then
the
we have to prove-
investigations.
And again, I'm not defending, I'm not trying to
Appreciate
take
it.
their side or anything else. I'm trying to address your concerns. The board is, we're definitely.
It's not just yours, I mean, it's everybody in your, because you all seem to have.
I thank you.
Wells.
I wanted to get my,
That
If you're within the certain radius, I think it's 1,000 feet, then yes.
1,000 feet and you'll get notified.
They notify you.
You will be informed by either the DES or by us. It's a requirement,
Okay.
if you're within that 1,000-foot radius.
Anything else from public? Okay, I'm gonna close public. And, because this design review, there's no vote tonight, so, everybody, so we're all set with your design review. Thank you very much. And, we'll move on. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Move on to the next case. Next case is P 2514. Randy Tatro, LLS, Norway Plains Associate, to adjust lot lines for 2 lots of record, map 21, lot 36, adjusted from 66 acres to 51.5 acres. And map 21, lot 36-1, adjusted from 12.07 acres to 26.52 acres.
You kind of feel bad for the people. It's the same thing. The guys are there, oh, about this 30 years ago, I thought I could be the only person up. Well, guess what? You can't be. You should have bought aluminum land if you want to be the only person. Yeah, how many people back when I was in New Jersey, how many people were next to a farm? The guy needed the money, he sold it to the developer, and now he's got 80 houses. House.
Anytime you want to come to our meetings and, you know, if we. Okay, so. Okay, so this is, all right, this is application hearing and to do completeness, right? Okay. And we have waivers. You have all your forms, right?
Their request was to submit the sample deeds as a condition of approval.
Okay, so, yeah, so we'll get them either way, right? That's what they want, that's what the waivers?
Well, it's one of them.
It's one of them, right? Wetland. No further, okay, no further development, no further development. Additional approval, okay.
So let's do the completeness there.
Yeah, I thought we did the waivers first, before completeness. Right?
Okay, you're right.
Wait.
Long day.
What?
You said long day.
Okay, so we have, 3 waivers here. is existing single-family dwellings, no further development being proposed on the delineate or wetlands. The second one, same thing, not to show the 25% slopes. And then the last one is for to submit deeds as a condition of approval. Does anybody have any issues with them? Okay.
Straight.
All right. Okay, so I will make a motion. Approve waivers, Article 7, F dot 7 dot G, Article 7, F dot 7 dot H, and Article 7 dot, 7 comma F dot 8, of the subdivision regulations, to approve the waiver requests.
Second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Then we can move on to all right, and you're all set with your stuff, right? Yeah, okay.
So Chairman,
Go ahead.
seems to me that the application is complete.
Okay.
You should accept it.
Okay, so that's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so then motion and seconded and as complete. And you guys are up.
Sure. Good evening. That was entertaining. My name is Randy Tatro. I'm the licensed land surveyor from Norway Plains Associates that prepared the plans for this project. Also with me tonight are the two owners and applicants. It's a minor lot line, it's a lot line adjustment. No new lots are being created. I'll paraphrase the narrative. The lots are located at 176 and 178 Wolfboro Highway, Route 28, near the Wolfboro line on the southerly side. They are fairly large parcels, 166 acres in size, and one, I believe, is 12 acres in size. It was approved by the Alton Planning Board back in 2002. The first plan that I got up there, the highlighted area in green is the 66-acre lot, and that's owned by David Countway Trust. And the purple area that I got right there is a 12-acre lot, and that's owned by Buttonwood Hill Real Estate Trust. It's family, family property.
So did the 12 come from the 66?
Yeah, originally, back in
So
2002.
66 is
Well, right now, that's how it stands. So what we're gonna do.
So-
The question.
So you're making 12 bigger?
Yeah, there was a question in the planner review about the titles of the plans, proposed, existing, or proposed, but really what it is, it's overall view. It shows the whole property, shows the whole 56 acres, shows the 12 of them, kind of shows where we're gonna adjust them now. This is a blow up. Both of these sheets will have to be recorded. Overall, and then this one shows the area a little better, so you can see how big the 12-acre lot. Yeah, it's less than the left of the 66 acres, which I believe
51.
51, yeah, 51 and a half. you both stuff. We have topography on it. We obviously didn't want to wetlands map the whole thing. So we asked for that. But both properties are already developed. Butler Trust is this property here. Conway Trust is this property here. They're both accessed right away for 28 and needed right away. That access is both blocked, so none of that's going to change. They have frontage on required frontage, but that's not, for in driveways. So in this case, we did show 3/4 of the lot size boxes that are required under the ordinance. We didn't show them in the areas that the properties are developed, but we wanted to show that there's plenty of property on both to be able to meet that requirement. Again, the lots are serviced. They're already developed and they already have wells and septic systems. I know wells is a sore subject, but those are already state approved. We submitted that information. If you have any questions for the owners are in the crowd. Again, the waivers were more for not having to do full wetlands delineation, and we made the boxes slightly bigger, the rectangles, because it'd be 1.5 acres in the 2-acre zone. We made them like 1 3/4 acres, just to make sure with the topography. There's no planned, like it says in the narrative, there's no planned development this time. It's just a swap of 14.5 acres.
Was there a reason, or did they
Well,
just
I
wanted
would,
it to be bigger? Or?
I defer to the owner. Go ahead, Melissa.
Just curious.
I'm Melissa Countway, and just to be clear, we have 3 generations here because Xander, who works for Randy, is my son and
Okay.
did the legwork on the project. But essentially, the 12-acre lot, my parents carved out for me to come back to town and build a house and live next door to them. So to create that lot, we had to have the correct amount of frontage, but I wanted to build on the top of the hill. So that it's just an unusually shaped lot with that sort of dog, what is it, a dog tail or what they call that. But so it has the frontage and then the house goes up. You can sort of see that from the driveway is a little spur road and there's a barn. And so the area near that barn historically was a gravel pit, but we've reclaimed it and I have horses. So my horse field is actually on their land. So essentially what this does is just kind of squares off my lot, obviously adding significant acreage, but creating my horse field on my lot as opposed to trespassing on my parents.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I think it's
The hill by your house, is it very steep?
yes, yes, it is.
Yeah, I think one of the right-of-way, there was a question that was brought up originally with planning and so forth, is the original right-of-way comes in this way, and there was an access this way before because there was an access for the David Farm truck to get in there. That will no longer really be necessary because now it's going to be 5 feet. So just in case anybody was confused about that. That's why this little section right here, this is where the old lot line used to be, so they had just to get around to their property, and now because it's the family.
Straightforward. Yeah, simple lot line adjustment within the family. You all set with it? Yeah.
All right. All set?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we approve case 25-14.
With conditions.
With conditions,
Make sure we get that in.
conditions precedent.
Yeah,
And subsequent.
And subsequent, yep. All right. Need a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Way too
they were all like that.
Yeah. Sorry, wish you guys the first.
Yeah, sorry, that you got an entertaining hour and a half or so, and you. Alright. Next, two. Old business. And we have a memo dated May 14th from Jesse A. MacArthur, Town Planner, R.E. Steve Bocelli, agent for New State Realty Management LLC, and the need for site plan at map 34, lot 39, not, slash 404 Main Street. So this is just up for discussion. I'll give you my 2 cents. I read through everything. This is the guy with the garage that wants the arcade. And from what I can see, he feels, or his lawyer feels, that he's grandfathered in. We have, 2 choices here. It said, says, we'd like to move forward with informing the code officer of the issue, or would like to write another letter to the attorney clarifying the situation. My opinion, and it's, you guys, want to hear yours too. I would just assume at this point, after dealing with this guy last summer, and he never came with a site plan, I would just assume give it to the code officer, the code official, and have them handle it. But I want to know what you guys think.
My feeling is we approved it to be the corner store to be a general store, but there's no general store there.
That's, so that's part of the confusion.
Yeah,
That's a
that's-
complete separate application that has
Okay,
nothing,
so that is
nothing to
not
do
that.
with this.
so it's
They were
apples.
trying to tie
Yeah.
them in together.
Yes,
Because it's the same property owner, so
Right,
the
different
lawyer was
building.
taking that discussion and this discussion and blended it into this latest letter.
Right. And that's what he was trying to say, and this is the guy that has the garage with no bathroom, and
Yeah, I
just
got it.
opened it as an arcade and what, like surfboards or something, or he's got.
Yeah, rented.
Yeah, it's rented.
I think
And
it
I
should be
just,
reopened. That's,
yeah, I mean, we asked as, we're the planning board, and I think,
Yeah.
we need to know, look at like what our job is. We asked for a site plan for that little garage, and he didn't give us one, and he doesn't feel like he needs to, so
Well-
I think we've done everything that we could do, and
yes,
that's
but
why
I mean,
just
originally
assumed
was,
give it to the code officer,
it
official.
was brought
and
up
let
as a
them-
change of use
Mm,
and,
Right,
trying to say how we can say this.
probably not.
We kind of got taken,
Mm,
saying it was a general store.
right,
So Taco Bay and the donut place could be in there. But which would be fine if there was an anchor store being the general store.
Right.
But there is no general store.
but that's a
So I
whole
think
other-
we got-
right. That's a
So,
whole other
right.
issue. This is just a
Yeah.
garage we're talking.
Well, my opinion, it was a garage.
So, like
So
I
it should
said,
go to,
I just,
It's not,
well, it was, or,
it's got a wooden floor. You drove your car in there, so it's not a garage. Now, whether or not,
but it doesn't have a
Alton
bathroom,
doesn't
right?
recognize the word grandfather.
Yeah.
I read it here that they believe they don't need to come here because they're grandfathered.
They think it's grand, yeah,
Okay, so that is the only question here.
right.
Has nothing to do with the store. It's whether or not they are grandfathered. So it's up to them to somehow prove that they are grandfathered. That's the only issue.
Yeah, but again, I think we've done everything we could do, right? I mean, as far as asking for, a site plan where he wanted to put an arcade in there.
Right.
And he doesn't feel he needs to, right?
Right.
So that's why I was just gonna say, hand it off to the code official and let them deal with it. Are you guys okay with that?
As far as what?
Well.
Telling him he can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, it's whether or not
It's an
you know,
allowable use in that
They make the
building.
determination of whether or not he's using it properly or not.
Is it
And
not
then,
more of the planning board's issue than the code official?
well,
Even if we were to look at it that way, there's no bathroom, there's no nothing in there.
we tried to we got him in here, and that was the guy that had all the waivers.
Well,
Remember that?
As far as the bathroom is concerned, there must be some sort of a code written that says there has to be one.
I couldn't find one, I looked.
Okay.
Not even
They
OSHA.
couldn't find one. So
He's
maybe
pretty
there
good.
isn't. So
Okay.
maybe the bathroom has nothing, you see what I'm saying?
But wouldn't the code official determine that?
Code official doesn't have anything to,
Right?
if it doesn't call for a bathroom, then the code official doesn't have anything to do with a bathroom.
So in your opinion, you think they're grandfathered in or they're not, Roger?
I just said, Town of Alton doesn't recognize the word grandfather.
Yeah, so he would have to go for a site plan to tell us what he's gonna do,
That's
right?
what we asked for.
That's what we were trying to get him to do. Just tell us what's going down.
We asked him for one, and he said he doesn't need one.
So basically, what it's gonna come down to is we've gotta tell him he has to have a site plan, and he has to go to the court and have the court tell us, don't.
Pretty, I guess. Yeah, I guess.
That's what I
Right.
see.
Is that the? You?
I would like for you to stay out of the conversation if you can, if you can. Well, I mean, it's up to them if they want it. I don't know. It's pretty basic. There's 7 bullet points on my memo. It's pretty clear as to what took place, what the board asked for, what I sent the letter on, and their determination. It's pretty clear that I feel like it should just go to the code official at this point.
That's my opinion. I think it should go to the code official.
This attorney a letter, and then he's gonna write me another letter back saying the same thing
Saying
I
that
said the
do it,
first time.
yeah.
It's just gonna be a go between.
What's
back
the
and
code
forth.
officials and what do you think they're gonna say to these? Do we have any?
So they're gonna go back to this meeting that you guys, back in May of 21st of 2024, to where you informed them via a motion to determine that the application for case P 2417 is not complete due to the denied waivers, and to allow the applicant to come back next month to address the waivers that were denied. Motion passed. And then he never came back, which is, so
That's why we
come
issued the letter.
January, February, that's when I asked you guys, should we send him a status letter? Spring's coming, businesses are gonna start opening up again. I figured, let's try to get this cleared up before things open without being approved. I was trying to actually help things.
Did you vote for them? Yes, the general consensus.
I think basically you gotta wait till he opens and then serve him with a cease and desist.
Well, that's what the code official would do.
Well,
So that,
His attorneys basically said that in the May 7th letter, that he's operating and clearly he's gonna open.
All right, let's have
I mean,
normal.
you guys can look at the letter again, but
Yeah.
that's what I got from it.
Right, let Norma go serve him, do what she's gonna do. And do we need a motion for that, or do we have to?
I don't think it would hurt.
Correct.
I don't think it would hurt to make a motion and vote on it.
All right, do we have a case number for him still?
Mm.
What was his case number?
It's gotta be in the minutes.
That's his case.
I'll make a motion, we take case number P 24-17 and hand it off to the code official to handle the situation that's going on down there.
Okay. I'll second that. Any discussion, further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
abstain from this vote.
Okay, that's fine. So Roger abstains. All right. Okay, so motion carries. All right. business done, new business. Building permit for a short-term rental.
Oh, there's just a,
Case P 2513, building permit permission request, short-term rental, private road, Kiki and Raymond. Wow, Schmalz, something, Schmalz. Map 37, lot 5, 16 Post Lane, Lakeshore Residential. Is that the only one we have?
it's a, this is the same we've been doing before, right?
Yeah, these are
Yeah.
just, it's because of the road that it comes to us, so.
Make a motion, we approve case number P 25-13 and send it up to the select board.
Okay. I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes for a planning board site walk. Site walk, I don't think I have any changes on that one.
This was the one that I wasn't on.
That's, yeah, so you'd have to,
That says I'm on it. This was, isn't this up the mountain there?
up the
Yeah.
mountain, yeah.
Yeah, that was the hike.
In the rain, it was awesome.
It was so cool.
You missed it.
Was present.
What?
No, it's not.
Roger Sample, member.
You're looking at the minutes, Raj, the regular minutes. Yeah, this is just a one-page thing. This is, it says the same. Different one.
Either. Oh, is it in the same booklet?
No, separate piece of paper.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Well, I wasn't there, so what?
Yeah,
difference
doesn't
does it
matter,
make?
yeah.
Anyway.
It was, you missed a good time.
Yeah, it was
You
great.
missed a good time.
Get in the rain.
I'll make a motion, we approve the site walk meeting minutes from Thursday, April 3rd, 2025.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, now
Roger, you abstain?
Roger abstains, he wasn't there.
Yeah.
He's not present, so. And next item is approval of minutes for planning board, Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. He thinks it was on 102. I think it was Russ Wilder, not Russ Williams.
Okay.
Was it Russ? Wasn't it Russ?
Yeah.
Unless it was another Russ here. It's the only Russ that,
I was there for Russ Wilder.
yeah. And I think that was the only correction I had.
Yeah, I have, line 68.
68?
Was that 168 or 68?
68.
Okay.
What I did say is, they did not follow best practices. And they are not good stewards of the land.
Okay, so you want it to read, did not follow these practices and did not appear to be good stewards of the land?
Are not.
Correct.
Okay.
And, line 234. Positive I didn't second the motion. To pick somebody else.
You said you did not second that?
No.
Was that the vote on it?
I thought
What's that?
Was that the vote?
That was the vote.
Yeah, I remember you voted no, so why
I
would
said
you?
no, so
Yeah,
why
why
would I
would you
second
second it? Yeah.
Yeah, good point. That's why, my,
I have a feeling that that was Doug Brown.
probably because he
Doug
was
made the motion, I think.
Did I second it?
It's probably me.
Could have been Raj.
Might have been Roger.
Oh, yeah, motion by Mr. Brown.
Yeah, motion by,
and
yeah,
seconded by Raj.
By the powers of deduction.
that's fine. But
So that would be Mr. Sample.
there's sample.
Okay. Yep, I think you're right. I think you did.
We don't need to put any more holes in that.
It's down at the end of the table.
Okay.
So now we know what you didn't say.
Yeah. Make sure we get that right, yep. All right. Are there any other changes? Sorry, changes?
I'll make a motion, we approve the Tuesday, April 15th, 2025 minutes of the meeting as amended.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And let's see. No, we don't have any correspondence for board review, board information. Board's information on state permit in, applications and NHDES request for more information dated May 8th, 2025, New England Luxury Collectibles.
Yeah, that was a site plan that you guys had approved for like the toy box storage units.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So they're still working with DES on.
Okay, so
And so
do we
you
need to
just-
take any
no,
action
you
on
just
this?
get,
Okay,
just-
that's
you're
just
just being
information?
informed.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. All right, any other business to come before the board? Public input. Anybody else? No? Water issues?
They took off out of here after that.
Okay, so we just need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.